Well, thank you very much. If you're joining us here in the room at MAT, and if you're joining us online live stream, well, thank you. I know can be a sacrifice of your time to join us, but we want to spend some time talking about high school courses and planning for your child's future grades and classes that they may want to take. Now, today we're going to be covering these topics: graduation requirements, how do students select courses. We're going to talk about AP courses, online courses, and I also want to touch on beginning to research admissions requirements for colleges and have that be a part of planning high school courses. Do the students have the courses that they need to apply for college programs that they want to study in the future? So let's get started. Many of you have already seen this. If not, this is on our website. It's also in the student's handbook and our course catalog also. These are the graduation requirements that we have for our high schoolers. 24 credits are required. So if you break that down, a student must be enrolled in 6 credits per year to be considered a full-time student. Most of our students, though, actually have more than that each year. The maximum, absolute maximum that we will permit is 8 credits. That is permissible, but we do have to understand the number of credits that a student takes depends on their ability. It also depends on the difficulty of the course. As students get into the higher grades and they are taking more challenging courses, more AP courses, I actually encourage students not to take a full 8 credits of work because as the workload increases and the demand on them increases, it's better for them, I think, to focus on those higher level courses, the AP courses, and do well in them instead of trying to just take more courses. But these are the graduation requirements, and for the most part, students are able to complete most of these graduation requirements within the first 2 to 3 years of high school. So the only classes that are really required at the senior level are U.S. Government, English, and Bible. The rest of their classes at that point would be what we call electives. For example, we can look at social studies. There are 3 social studies classes that we build into the student's schedule. And so they're going to very easily meet that graduation requirement because we simply build that into their schedule. If you look at science credits, there's actually only 2 required to graduate, but many of our students take much more science than that. So any class that goes beyond the graduation requirement is an elective, but we consider it an elective science or an elective math. Okay. And so many of our students, they go well beyond these graduation requirements, but these are just the minimum. The students must complete these to graduate from Morris. Now, as I mentioned before, we also want to be mindful of what colleges are looking for. So there may be courses that colleges are looking for admission of their students coming in. It may not be required by us, but it's possible to take those courses. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. How does the student plan and select those courses that they get to choose? Now, in years past, I've actually had this discussion and this type of parent meetings later in the school year. But as we're talking in our leadership, the word that keeps coming up is earlier. And so we really do want to be building this schedule, and this is just an example of the schedules that we build, and we color code them, and we actually present these to the students. Now, again, this is a current schedule, and it's subject to change. We're going to change this and make slight adjustments for next year, of course. But again, the reason why we're talking about this earlier is so that we understand what students need, the classes that they need, and that will affect the way we structure our schedule to best meet the needs of those students. Now, course selection. Many of you, if your student is already a high schooler, you've seen I send a document home. Once we set the schedule, then I send a document home that is actually the student's course selection sheet. And on there, they can see what their schedule will look like. Certain classes are required, and those are designated as being required. And then there are places where certain grade levels may choose certain classes. And so ninth graders, because they're at the beginning of their high school, and there are many classes that they need to take for graduation requirements, most of their classes are actually prescribed to them. You need to take these freshman classes. It's when we get into the 11th grade and 12th grade is where they have more flexibility in their schedule, and they get to choose more classes. Okay? I also need to talk about the required social studies class for grade 9 has now been changed in the curriculum to be a required grade 10 class. So this year, the freshmen do not have social studies. Grade 9, currently, they do not have a social studies class. Next year, when the 9th grade moves up into grade 10, the world history required social studies class will be there in their schedule. Okay? Any questions about this before I move on?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am?
So you're saying that 10th graders are highly encouraged to take an online course. Why is that?
Well, in the past, it's been because they don't have the social studies. That's changing. We do want to encourage students to have the experience of an online class because many colleges are going to online courses. Now, it's not required. To take an online class is not required for them. But many universities, they are going to core classes being online classes as their normal curriculum now. And not all universities, but it is something that they may experience at the college level. They're just told, this is your schedule, and by the way, this is an online class, and that's just the way it is. Now, just to let you know, we have sent out a survey about online classes, and the current students and their parents have given us a lot of feedback. We are going through that in detail. I have a large printout of that information. And we are going to need to discuss as a system, how do we respond to this? Are there things that we can adjust, but are there certain things that we cannot change? I'll be honest, one of the common concerns that was voiced in the survey was there's a big time difference between the online teacher and us. Well, I can't change that. But we are trying to talk to them about having time slots that are set, kind of reserved for international students. Because, but I'm also encouraging students, they also need to be looking ahead and scheduling those appointments at convenient times. I've also seen where many times students, they procrastinate. They can look in their schedule and see 2 or 3 weeks ahead. They know they should be scheduling an appointment with their teacher. They wait till the last minute, and then the only time slots left for their U.S. teacher are, say, 3 p.m. U.S. time, 4 p.m. U.S. time, which is in the middle of the night for us, and that's an awful time. But if that student might have been more proactive or scheduling further in advance, they may have gotten a 9 a.m. U.S. time slot or a 10 a.m. U.S. time slot, which is in the evening here and a little more reasonable. So there's two sides of it. Are the students doing it responsibly and efficiently, but are there also times available with those teachers that are a little more convenient for our students? Yes, ma'am.
So is the school going to adjust right now the policies about dropping and adding and changing your online courses are related to the policies of the courses that they give in person at Morrison. And Morrison cannot guarantee the quality of these classes when they are online. And you know what you were saying about the in the middle of the night stuff, that's so true, that there are other companies that offer online classes that are Christian courses. And so I'm hoping the school will open the door to more choices because these companies realize the time differences.
And we are open. I am open to suggestions. I mean, I cannot speak to policy change right now.
Right.
So all that's above my head.
Right. Oh, I know that's not
but
good,
but
I'm
I
looking at
I
when the
do.
school does that,
I would
they will let
love.
us parents know.
I would love
because
to.
I don't know what school policies are. You know.
Yeah, I would love for us to have that conversation. Are there better providers out there
Yeah.
that meet the criteria that Morrison wants to have? Which we do say it needs to be accredited. It needs to be a Christian provider as well.
Yes, and there are. And we need to know, as parents, we need to know what the policies are. We need to be warned. We and the children need to understand, if you take on this online class, here's the rules. You know, you have 2 weeks or 3 weeks to decide, and then you don't get your money back. And then what if I decide to drop this class because it's not good? Does this grade go on my transcript? All this kind of stuff needs to be communicated to parents.
Well, essentially, the way we viewed it right now is the online courses have the same policy applied to them as our courses in-house.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's going to hopefully change after the surveys come back.
I can't guarantee that it will change, but it's something that we need to
And
discuss.
if it does change,
Do
you're
we
going to
treat-
let us know.
Do we treat online classes differently for our drop-out policy or not?
Great. So if it does change, you will let us know.
Oh, absolutely. A policy change has to be communicated.
Okay, thank you.
All right, AP courses. I just wanted to remind people that the top list of the 7 AP courses are the ones that we have at MAT. And so I highly encourage students to take those. I also need to take time to emphasize, again, the reason we are discussing this earlier, and I will be discussing this with students earlier in the year, is because of some of our AP courses. Our policy is that a class must have 5 students enrolled for us to commit for that teacher to have FTE. Yeah, FTE is it's full-time equivalency. For a teacher to be considered a full-time teacher, they have to have a certain number of classes that they are teaching, and they have work that justifies their salary and their contract. And so we're deciding very soon the courses that teachers are going to teach. We have to decide very soon, who do we need to hire? Because teachers are current teachers. They're deciding right now, are they signing their new contracts? Or have they decided to leave? I don't think there are many. but so we're deciding, like, do we need to hire new teachers to cover these classes? And we also need to have students and parents committed to these classes and choosing very wisely. I'll give you an example. We had a course that seemed to be very popular. Several students signed up, many more than 5. And so we said, okay, I have enough students to have this class, and we're going to assign this teacher to that class. And we came in August, and we started school, and then, to my surprise, several of those students decided to drop the course. Now, are they able to drop the course? Yes, they're able to drop the course. But here's the problem. If it drops below 5, then we as a school have a decision to make. Does Mr. McGill, our superintendent, give permission for a class to happen with less than 5 students? Or he says no, and the students that want that course, they are then almost forced to either wait to take that class a different year, or they need to choose to take it online.
So is there there any class
Hmm?
which didn't open this year?
No, that's what I'm saying. There was one of these classes that dropped below 5. And then I had to get special permission
So in the beginning,
to have that course.
so
We still were able to offer all of those classes. But students, many of our students, they were really excited about APs. I'm going to take a lot of APs. And then they realized how much work that was going to be. And some of our students, our AP limit is 2 classes, 2 APs for 11th graders. We did up the number of APs that seniors could have to 3. But there were some students, they requested a special AP course. I'm applying, I want another AP. And for some of those students, they found that was too much. And they decided to drop it. And so, again, I want to encourage parents and students to think very wisely about the classes, especially APs, that they would like to take. I encourage students, AP courses should be taken because the student is very excited about that subject. They are good at that subject. They want to take the AP to show their abilities in that subject area. I want to caution just taking a lot of APs just to take APs. If the student is not determined to work hard in that subject, if they do not enjoy that subject, they may need to take a regular course, not the AP course. Again, it's up to the students and the parents. But these are some of my observations and things that have occurred. We need to encourage students to talk to teachers about the AP course. They can go to the teacher and ask, hey, next year, I might consider taking your AP course. What does the workload look like in that? What's the homework like? What are the demands of that course? They can be talking to these teachers. They could even be talking to their peers. They may ask an older student, hey, I see you're in AP statistics. What's that like? Opinions are opinions, right? But I would encourage students and parents to be talking about the demands of AP courses and choosing wisely. Any questions before we move on? Okay. Well, the bottom part, again, these are AP courses that are specifically on 7-star. I did have permission this year. There was an AP course that was not on 7-star, and so I got permission to provide that AP course through a different provider. And so there are these options, but they must be researched, they must be approved, and we want to be very careful that it doesn't get out of control. We don't want to have to manage and monitor too many online providers and companies.
Okay, so if we decide that they're going to take an AP course at Morrison Taipei, what support does the school give to that child for that online course, for example?
For the online?
Yes, if they take an online AP course,
Okay.
and that a company that you guys approved, what support do you give them?
Okay. I as the online coordinator,
Okay.
receive updates weekly about their academic performance. So, first and foremost, I'm monitoring their progress on their courses. Now, we do not expect our MAT teachers to be just an ongoing additional tutor or support for the students taking the class online. Now, I know our teachers. I know that they're helpful. And so if a student came to a teacher who said, I'm in a math course and I have a math question, I'm sure our teachers would be willing to help them. But as far as the school is concerned, and Ms. Myberg, the principal, we're not telling teachers at MAT, you are expected to support or tutor a student who's taking an online AP.
So it's you observing
I observe
the deadlines.
to make sure that they are meeting deadlines.
Okay.
I
If
was,
you see they are not meeting a deadline, do you talk with the student?
I speak with the students.
Okay.
We have flex time and study halls.
Okay.
And so a common response that I have is I see I got an email from the online provider. You're slow to turn in your things, or you skipped an assignment. That's another common one. Kids will get a 0 as a placeholder on an assignment because they skipped it. It's very specifically instructed in their orientation. They are not to skip assignments. They have to do them in order.
Okay.
And so if I receive that, then what I do is I will speak to the student, and then I will actually, I kind of take control of their flex and study hall times
Okay.
and say, during this time, you will be working on this until it's done. And with our, we have a program on our computers called Blocksy, which means I, as a teacher, I'm looking at Blocksy, and if a student is online or even in a regular class at MAT, whatever is on their screen can be monitored. And so with those students, I simply say, okay, on your screen, the only thing I want to see during this study hall time or these periods is your online until this assignment is completed.
So if there's a problem with the online company
Mhm.
and the teacher or the teacher's not clear with their communication, there's misrepresentation,
Well,
there's problems between.
First I encourage,
Are you the one
well,
that goes
first I encourage the student to communicate with the teacher directly and copy
Mhm.
on the
Okay.
emails. I'm copying on communications. If the student is speaking to me
Okay.
about it, if I'm aware of it, I say, I would like copied on the email, because the teacher will see that I'm copied and I'm the online coordinator here. There have been a few times where I've had to email the teacher and or the curriculum coordinator or the principal of Seven Star on behalf of the student.
Right.
That's been rare, but I have done that if necessary,
Okay.
if I feel that that's necessary.
So will the school stand behind the student if the company is unreasonable and does not change unreasonable things? Is the school going to back up the student? Like, for example, if
Well,
the student wants to withdraw from that class without having their grade put on the transcripts because of things that company did wrong, is the school going to stand and support the student?
We can't make a blanket statement on there. It's going to have to be a case by case.
Okay.
But again, we're bound by the Morrison policy first and foremost.
Okay.
If we're talking about a circumstance and we deem that it's out of the student's control, it's nothing the student did.
Right.
Again, there would have to be a long discussion. There would have to be look at evidence and things like that. Again, decisions can be made that are exceptions to the rule, but that's a discussion and a long process. First and foremost, I'm bound by the policy.
Right. So it looks to me like the policy right now is being handled differently on the different campuses. Like, I'm hoping that this will be a policy that they will change things to be consistent on all 3 campuses, because I know that there have been situations where families were not given grace by Seven Star, and they were not allowed to drop them on this campus, but they were allowed to drop them on the other campus. So I'm hoping that there will be a consistency between all 3, campuses.
But again, a situation on this campus and a
It's the same
situation
company.
but a
It's the
situation
same
on a different
company.
campus with a different student under different circumstances can have a different decision. It's all case by case.
Well,
So
yeah,
we have to be
that's good.
careful.
I'm hoping
We have to be
they'll
careful
the
saying
same.
like all policy is
Right.
applied the same. And, so, yeah.
But I'm hoping there will be a change of policy on all campuses.
Again, I want to remind people that in order for students to take AP courses, we do want them to complete this AP application. They're actually requesting to take these APs. Now, once these are completed, we actually present these to the high school teachers. And we actually think about these, we pray about these, and we discuss Is this student in their previous courses, their previous and their current academic performance, are they able to handle the AP courses that they are requesting? And then I ask the counselor if a decision is different than what the child or the student wants, then I have then had those conversations with students. And I do that very delicately. I say things like, your teacher is concerned that this may be a heavy workload for you. You can take it, but it's going to be difficult. And ultimately, it does come down to parent and student decision. We have yet to come back and say, you absolutely cannot take this AP. We have never said that. But we do have these conversations with students. This is going to be challenging. Your teachers have concerns. And I do want to be honest with students, because if they're taking on these AP courses, I do want them to be successful. I do want them to perform well. And there's the benefit of extra GPA numbers. So if they take an AP course, they're going to get a higher boost in their GPA. For example, the regular scale for GPA is A's are 4-point scale. For the APs, an A is 5. So there is the benefit of that, but it is a more challenging course. I also want to mention that AP courses they are often talked about as being transferable to universities. Like, you take an AP course and it will be college credit. And I want to be very, very clear. It is not a guarantee. It is very important that as you're researching universities, most universities, they will publish right on their websites, like, we accept these AP courses if the student gets this grade or mark on the AP exam. And so it's not a guarantee that they'll get the credit. The universities decide what criteria they use, and then they will accept the AP course as credit at that university. So I always want to make that very, very clear. It is conditional, but it does give students an opportunity to show that they are able to handle these AP courses that are approaching college level requirements. Yes, ma'am.
A good example of that for our son is that he took AP calculus, and most engineering schools don't really accept AP calculus except to see that you can do it. When he got into engineering school, they made him take calculus all over again.
And now we do come to the online courses. Again, I do want to reiterate, we are looking at the feedback from the surveys. We will see what we can do, but looking at what we're currently doing, I do want to emphasize that if it is from 7-star, that is a partnership we have with that online provider. So any class that I approve them to take in 7-star, they get the credit for it, and it is actually calculated into their GPA. Okay. If it's a different provider, then they get the credit, but then there's a determination: does it actually get calculated into their GPA? And to be honest, if I found that a provider is not able to have an adequate course, like, I don't know if I can accept this credit or this GPA, I would probably suggest don't take that. I don't want a student to waste their time. I would rather them find a sound online provider that will give them the credit for the course, and I'm able to calculate it into their GPA. Okay. So once students hit 9th grade, they can choose to take a different foreign language. We have Spanish 1 and 2 here, and we're working to build that program. But there are other online languages that students can take. And I will be honest, I would like to see better rigor in the online languages. I've seen what they do, and it's a decent introduction to those languages. But I wish it was more rigorous. I wish they had more practice in writing and more oral practice. It seems to be a lot of vocabulary building, which is great, and grammar, sentence structure, things like that. But they do have that option. But I always encourage students, if they are strong in their Mandarin and they are able to continue Mandarin into their high school years, I encourage them to do that. My daughter included, she was vacillating. She's now in 11th grade. She was vacillating. Do I do a different language or do I do Mandarin? And again, our family's opinion, she's had years of experience in Mandarin since she has lived here all of her life. And so we encouraged her continue with Mandarin into high school if you can, you have that ability. Because that means they're continuing into high school with the teachers that have been teaching them for years. They know their level. The students know the teachers. So that is what I encourage them to do if they can. But it is an option. It is an option that they can choose to take a different language. And I encourage parents and students to have that discussion very seriously about why you would continue with Mandarin or why you would change. Again, it is a parent and student decision. Yes. 10th graders may choose online courses, but again, as I mentioned before, the world history class that is moving from 9th grade to 10th grade actually gives them less time in their schedule to add an online course. They need to make sure that they are, as 10th graders, that they are working on courses that are completing graduation requirements, which include language, art, PE, things like that. And so the world history being in grade 10 may fill up their schedule. We can discuss online courses for them, but again, they would need to choose wisely. And 11th graders and 12th graders, again, because they've met most of the graduation requirements, they do have a little more flexibility in their schedule for elective courses here or online courses. Yes, ma'am?
I just want to say, I really appreciate you coming out and talking to us about this and the online courses, because I feel like we just were very uninformed, not by you necessarily, because this is, my son took a course with 7 Star on another campus. But I just want to let parents know that the system that Morrison has in place right now, the policies, are very, they're not supportive to online learning. So as looking at my daughter, if she said to me, I want to take an online course, I'd say absolutely not. Because we had a really bad experience with not only 7 Star, but the policies at Morrison. But what I'm thankful for is that Morrison they were flexible, MAC, they were flexible, and they made allowances for us to change to another company. So I'm very hopeful. But I would tell parents to know very clearly what the policies are, what you're getting into when you put your kids into online courses, because it's not for every kid.
No,
and then how much the school will support you, what they will do, what they can't do. Know those things before you sign up for an online class. And the way it is right now, hopefully the policies will change. I would say no, do not put your kid in a 7 Star class. Okay? So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you. Hopefully things will get better.
One of the things that I found when I had students signing up for courses, I encouraged in my emails and my communications to go to the 7 Star website, read course descriptions, read what the class is going to entail. And I also found that many students did not do that. And so
But there are things that are not on the website that the teacher, the individual teacher did that were really unprofessional and miscommunicative. And so it's not really the fault of the students or the parents, and this is why the school did support us, and I'm really thankful for that. So it's an outdated website, there are technology problems, there are teacher problems, and all of those things. So hopefully, I'm very thankful that the school, supported us. They weren't going to put that negative grade on the transcript. We were allowed to drop it, and we were allowed to take another class. So I'm thankful, but I feel like things need to change to support our students to have a better success. And the problem was with 7-star, but school policies need to change some things.
I do want to remind people of our program. This is because it's still new to us, and this is since it's the first year that we have graduating seniors. It's the first year that we are using this program called Salfo, and Salfo replaced a program that was called Naviance. And what these programs do is they help the school and the student organize materials that are used to apply to colleges. Now, the reason I really like Salfo, the old program, Naviance, was very USA focused. But actually, there are over 40 different countries in the Salfo program, which means they are continually building a resource of colleges and universities in all of those countries. And so what that does is it allows the student and the parents to go into Salfo, look at universities, and as they can click on those universities, and they are given information about the tuition, the costs, student demographics that attend that school, maps of where it's actually located. And so there's a lot of information that can be found in Salfo, but of course, the university's website itself will have even more. But it gives students an opportunity to research universities and then select them to show me that they're interested in that school, and I begin to talk to them. And they are allowed to give me a long list at first, and then we want that to move over into a category called shortlist. And then right now, I'm encouraging our students, I've given them a deadline, and in the next couple of weeks, I want them to narrow that list down to, these are my applying schools. And so it really does help us to organize documents. I can upload documents into this program, like our school profile. We have a new profile, and it's on our website as well, if you want to go and look at that. Teacher recommendations. The student tells me, this teacher is my recommender. They're going to write a letter for me, and I simply send a link to the teacher, and the teacher can give me their letter right back into the system, and from the system, I send it directly to the university. It is. I think it's speeding up the process of applications. Once we get used to all of the program, it is actually quite efficient, and it presents deadlines. Once I put a student's college or university into the applying category, the program will remind me of the due dates. It will remind the student of the due dates. It will remind the teacher who's writing the letter of the due dates. And so it's actually helping us to communicate, to make sure we meet these deadlines. And last, I do want to talk about, I mentioned, the word that keeps coming up in our discussions is early. Let's start doing this early. And so I encourage any grade level, you can begin to look at colleges and universities and look at what are the admissions requirements for these universities for particular majors. Now, for example, Cornell, we have a few students that are applying to Cornell. And so you can go on the websites and you can look, like what are the math and science courses that Cornell is looking for if a student wants to go into engineering. And you can see they're saying they want to see at least 4 maths. So the student knows, okay, as I'm planning my high school classes, I need to have math all 4 years. One of those they suggest is physics. One of them they will also want to include being calculus. They also want to see chemistry. And then suggested here is a computer science course and a biology course. Okay. And again, this is most universities' programs that are very popular, programs that are very competitive. They will post this kind of information. What are the high school courses that the university is looking for admission into their program? I also looked at some nursing. On a personal note, my daughter is considering nursing. So this is what we're doing at home. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to. It's not casting. I need to recast the tab. I apologize. Sorry, it doesn't seem to want to cast my tab. Okay. Again, it's similar to what was previously there. I apologize. That link doesn't seem to want to work. But again, for the art and the nursing and the pre-law, again, I chose other popular college websites. For the pre-law, you can actually look at the professional organizations that govern those things. For example, for pre-law, I found the best resource was the American Bar Association. There was an article that talked about, pre-law majors, how to get into law school, and also high school courses that prepare a student, for law. And the other one was art. If a student is interested in having an art major, it's very important that that student is building a portfolio of artwork that they are doing personally to present to colleges and universities. So some universities and certain majors, they want to actually see a portfolio of students' work. And that's something that may take years for that student to build, to be able to present to those universities. And that's something they need to be thinking about even now. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I want to encourage you, if you have any questions about what I've been presenting here, about course selection or online, I encourage you, please email Mrs. Tracy Liu or myself directly. And I would also love to sit down and talk with parents if they have questions. And it will be an ongoing process of me sitting down and talking to whole classes, but also talking to individual students as we begin to talk about course selection for next year, even now in the next couple of months. So, thank you very much for coming. And watching live on the screen, thank you for